Hello, I'm Sebastian Andrew. Today I'm going to talk about a number of things. Um, Sacred sites, ley lines, other forms of energy. I've been talking about connecting the dots. So I'm going to give you a few dots to connect to. Now, some dots are hidden, hidden from us, but known to others. I said sacred sites, so let's start with those. We know Stonehenge. We know the pyramids. We know Snake Mound, which is here in Ohio. And I've never visited, but I've always wanted to. Um, there are a number of other indigenous sites. There are Six Grandfathers, which unfortunately was turned into Mount Rushmore by the greedy white colonials. There's Ayers Rock, which isn't called Ayers Rock anymore. I can't remember what it's called now. But the indigenous of Australia renamed it and said that's the name of it and that's what you're going to call it. The neat thing about Ayers Rock is, one, it's a natural occurrence. But if you've ever done any kind of seeking with your energy work, you may have found Ayers Rock without realizing you found Ayers Rock. It's huge. I mean, the amount of energy that Ayers Rock holds is huge, and it goes much deeper into the earth than just what you see on the surface. It's almost like an iceberg made of rock. There's another one like that here in the States, Devil's Tower. Now, one of the neat things about Devil's Tower is people call it a tree stump. It's like a giant petrified tree stump. And it kind of looks like it. But those who call themselves scientists say it's more volcanic than organic. But you have to take into account that science, almost any kind of science, is going to try and blind you to the things that they want you to see. You're going to see what's there. You're going to see what they want you to see, what they tell you to see. So those of us who work with energy on a regular basis, we have to pay attention to our own feelings, our own intuition. So when you put your mind out to Ayers Rock, when you put your mind out to Devil's Tower, when you put your mind out to the pyramids, those are fun. One of the first things you'll find about the pyramids is they're older than the archaeologists are telling us, and there's more there, which they're starting to tell us now because the technology has finally gotten up to the point where they can scan the ground without digging into it, but they can find the structures that are under the structures, under the funerary pits, under the towns that have been buried. They're finding things there that, one, they didn't know was there before, and two, that they have found and then verbally buried because they don't want to scare the shit out of us. Actually, I think it's more like they scared the shit out of themselves and they're not sure what to do. One of the things Edgar made very clear to me in the story he left behind was that the Egyptians did not build the pyramids, at least not the Giza pyramids. The step pyramid and the bent pyramid, those they built because they were trying to build the Giza pyramids or something like the Giza pyramids and got it wrong. But the Giza complex was there when the Egyptians came to live. When Edgar's people helped create the Egyptians and raise that species, best way of putting it. What the pyramids are, well, right now is anybody's guess. Because even the things that we have determined that they can do, and Nikola Tesla got really close. Well, not really close, he figured it out. And then he tried to do something like it himself. But that was one aspect of the pyramids that he found. And he, like I said, he tried to reproduce it using the technology of his time. Unfortunately, he lost his funding for various reasons. And we will never, I can't say that. We won't know where he was going, but we can reproduce it too using our technology. And I'll bet we get a little further than he did. So that would be something that would be interesting to explore. So, okay, so you have, these are the dots that we're connecting to. These are the energy sources that you can use. And there's others. I mean, there's hundreds. You can even use some of the modern dots, like Notre Dame. I mentioned that church, that cathedral, in a video I did on TikTok. And there's a power source for us there that we can draw from. There's a number of them in the country of Russia and the little countries around it that are still individual countries. There's a mountain. I have to remember where that was. It was a big thing I was into. I was researching it in late 20, early 21. Romania, I think. Yeah, Romania. I'll have to see if I can find it. Anyway, it's a mountain that became a military secret because it had a hidden entry and a hidden entrance point and kind of a force field over it that only certain people could get through. And it's kind of like the idea of the ancients, the ancient gene that they explored in Stargate, especially in the Atlantis series. And people with this aspect, this gene, could get through the force field and into the mountain. And when you went into the mountain, you found chambers, huge chambers. And the chambers had different aspects. One chamber spoke, and it spoke in a language. At first, it spoke in a language that no one understood. But if you stayed in that chamber long enough, eventually you would start to understand what was being said. Another chamber was said to create a portal to another place on Earth. Several chambers were portals, and they were, it was local being planet, transportation to places around the Earth. A couple of portals went places that weren't, and and it wasn't time travel either. They weren't going back in time. They weren't going forward in time. They were going someplace completely different. Now, after the brief reports that came out, at, like I said, between 20 and 21, you don't hear anything anymore. But I will bet you that Russia has access to that mountain, to that chamber, those chambers, and are trying to utilize that technology to advance their own plans. And I won't say nefarious because each leader thinks that their overall plans are the best plans, and that once they get the proper advanced technology, then they will then have control over everything, over the world, whatever. I don't think it's going to work out that way. I think, especially with this mountain, I think one thing they did was make sure that whoever went into the sound chamber, the learning chamber, in addition to learning how to understand the language that was being spoken, because the voice didn't change to whatever language that person spoke. What it did was it changed their mind. It taught their mind so that they understood the language it was speaking. And it changed their thinking. I mean, think about it. If you're an advanced civilization and you're leaving this archive, this library behind, but you don't want, you know it has the potential to be weaponized, to be turned into a weapon, to be used wrongly, whatever they consider wrong. You would put something into it so that, yes, it could still be learned, yes, it could still be used, but what it would do would rewrite the person so that they would become more like the people who left it behind than they would be like the people who are here. And if enough people were exposed to that new way of thinking, and if enough people became like those ancients in thought and in deed, then they would be able to utilize the technology, but not be able to weaponize it against the rest of humanity. Failsafe. That's the word I was looking for. They put in a failsafe. So I'm not afraid of the mountain. I would like to find it. I would like to go in and spend time in the learning room, in the learning chamber, and see what comes of it. There's another place that is in Romania. There is another place in Romania, I think. It's a forest. And I've mentioned this before in another video. It's a forest that no one can go into because when people go into it, they disappear. Not always, but figure 8 times out of 10. People walking through the forest reported hearing voices, hearing children, hearing crying, seeing things, seeing spirit balls, seeing spirits, seeing things that weren't known in the world at the time. And at the center of the forest is a spot where nothing grows. Now, that's one of the places I'm connected to. I draw energy from there because I love weird energy. There's a number of cemeteries I'm connected to too because spirit energy is just, I love it. There's so much that you can do by connecting with the people who have already moved through the veil, who moved through the veil. And even though in most cases their spirits have moved on, have become part of the reincarnation cycle, there's a memory there in those cemeteries. There is an energetic memory that you can connect to and that you can make use of, like a battery. And even if no one is buried again in that cemetery, if it's an old cemetery that they don't do, services in anymore, there is still that memory, there's still that battery of energy sitting there, just waiting. And that's a dot you can connect to. That's a bit of energy that you can use. So, and I was going to talk about ley lines. I kind of got distracted. I'm not going to go much further because my videos don't last long when I go over 20 minutes. So, I'll talk about that on Friday. But if you're interested, look them up. Look up what ley lines are. I'm going to put a map on the Facebook group. It's a basic map. It's not, there are ley lines everywhere, but the basic map shows the basic idea of lines that connect the various sacred sites and other points on the earth. So that's something I'll talk more on Friday in the next video. So I look forward to seeing you again.